no longer Man-Thing Mondays. Now it's Man-Thing Tuesdays with Curse of the Man-Thing. That's just one of the books we'll be talking about when taking an advanced look at these trade paperbacks from Marvel Comics that are coming out this week. So, let's get started. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these trade paperbacks. These trades are all due out in the direct market on August 4th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market. So we've got a couple of epic collections and 4 trade paperbacks to look at today. A couple from the Reign of X era, actually. So, as always, I like to leave timestamps in the description of the video if you want to jump around, in case you don't want to hear anything about a certain book, such as Hellions. I'd hate to spoil that for anybody, but for this particular one, I do have to talk a little bit about what happened to the team during the Ten of Swords, X of Swords crossover. So, let's go ahead and get started, kicking off this week with New Mutants by Vita, Ayala, and Rod Reyes. This is volume 1, so I can see why some people are confused as to what exactly the reading order of this New Mutants era of Dawn of X should be. It's pretty simple, well, only if you've been keeping an eye on things, but pretty much it goes like this. This is the way that I recommend reading it. You read the Hickman volume 1 first, and then the Brizzen run, and then the Ayala run. That's pretty much it. There's only 3 trades, and in between the Brizzen and Vita Ayala is, of course, the X of Swords, or Ten of Swords. So, Vita Ayala takes over the New Mutants books. We still have Rod Reyes on artwork, and I love his artwork. His artwork is very reminiscent of that era of Bill Sienkiewicz, trying out new things. He's experimenting with his art for his run on New Mutants. So it was when Chris Claremont was on the book, and then you had Bill Sienkiewicz come on board. The story itself is it's pretty interesting, to say the least. You have the return of a classic X-Men villain. You do have the involvement of the Otherworld in here, where one of the New Mutants gets captured and taken to the Otherworld, so it's up to Mirage and Karma to go and rescue them. But really, the big draw of this particular title, for me at least, is this awesome artwork. And I love the mashup of different characters that are all throughout this series. You have some Generation X characters, you have young X-Men characters, you have characters that were introduced through Grant Morrison's New X-Men, and then you have the classic New Mutants. So it's kind of a big lineup, and that's the one thing that it's got going against it. It's got too many characters to focus on, and I wish it was more centralized with the characters. I wish that we had just the classic New Mutants here with a couple of Gen Xers. And I mean the Generation X characters, not Gen Xers as an age. But for me, the big driving force was this wonderful artwork. I loved it. It's phenomenal. And like I said, even things like that just speak Bill Sienkiewicz to me. There are a couple of surprises in this particular volume, but for the most part, it's a pretty straightforward story. Let's look in the back here for some extras. Okay, here's the extras with all the covers. So the book contains issues 14 through 18 of New Mutants, and it has 136 pages, retailing for $15.99. And we also have some variants over here. Okay, one variant, not some variants. Now, let's keep going. Curse of the Man-Thing. Now, a couple of months ago, maybe not even that long ago, I read The Infernal Man-Thing, which was Steve Gerber's final story to sending off one of his characters, and that he made so popular. This is a lot different, and I know it's not me reviewing the book, but people have been asking me, how does this hold up to Steve Gerber's title? Well, that's really unfair, because we have Steve Gerber, the guy that put Man-Thing on the map, the guy that did so many stories with this beloved character and told him in a different way that wasn't really around at the time, at least for mainstream superhero comics. And because he's not. So this is Steve Orlando, though, and Steve Orlando is no stranger to horror. He's no stranger to comics. But it's interesting. So pretty much the premise of this is you have this young lady right here called Harrower, I think, yeah, because her name is Harriet. And what she wants to do, it's a group of botanists that are into the macabre, they're into the dark arts, and she decides that she wants to take some of this godlike power from Ted Sallis Every time I say Ted Salas, I think of Teddy Savalas. I'm like, don't say Teddy Savalas. Don't say... Anyway, and she wants to take these plants and make sure she burns the world with them. So that's what's happening here. The whole premise of Man-Thing is those who know fear will burn at his touch. So that's what she does with the plants. So throughout the world, she scatters these plants and people are burning. So it's up to our heroes. Like I said, less of a Man-Thing story, but then most classic Man-Thing stories are. But they also don't feature this many superheroes. So we have the Avengers coming in, and they do have ties to the story. I think it's pretty cool. I like the way that it continues. In each arc, there's 3 different collections in here. There is the Avengers Curse of the Man-Thing, then you have Spider-Man Curse of the Man-Thing, and then X-Men Curse of the Man-Thing. Each one of the chapters is drawn by a different artist. So Avengers is drawn by Francesco Mobili. Let's get to... Oh, this is actually... I gotta show this. I love this. So you have Steve Rogers, because, you know, sometimes they're taken into this dreamlike state because of the god status that Man-Thing has in connections to the Nexus. So he has to fight Burnside. He has to fight Anti-Captain America, Protoside, and, of course, Nuke. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, but I did want to show off Marco Failla's Spider-Man art here. So, like I said, it ends with a cliffhanger that leads directly into Spider-Man and why the story ties into Spider-Man. I thought was pretty cool. And then it wraps up with Andrea Brocardo's artwork here in X-Men. So, not as heavy ties as the Avengers or as Spider-Man, but I could see why they did this particular storyline. And this is where it wraps up. All of this, of course, written by Steve Orlando. And let's look in the back here for some extras. So it does end on a cliffhanger. I'm not sure what's going to happen after this, but here we have some of the variants. You have the Chris Sprouse variant and the one that I almost went out to a comic store to get. I love this Patrick Gleason variant. He did the similar thing that made me go out and buy a single issue with Spider-Man's webbing, and then there was a Carnage and Venom, and damn it, now I have to try to find those. And then you also have Joshua Casada's variant there, and Nick Bradshaw's variant. And to wrap it up, you have X-Men Curse of the Man-Thing's variant there by Nabete Citro. Now, the book retails for $15.99 and has 112 pages. Maestro, or en español, Maestro, which is teacher, which is different than the Maestro that we're talking about here. Well, in a way. Anyway, where the hell was I? Here we have Maestro, War in Packs by Peter David. Now, I've announced 4 Hulk by Peter David omnibus, and I would love to see a companion collecting all his stuff, the Maestro, the Hulk the End, the Tempest Fugit storyline. Love to see that collected. We have Javier Pina returning on artwork. He did a couple of the issues from the this particular story right here, the Symphony and Gamma Key. So, War and Pax, what exactly is this? Well, it's kind of a take on War and Peace, of course, and he already did that with the crossover with X-Factor during his run on Hulk. He did the War and Peace's storyline. But Pax is really, I'll let you know what it stands for, but it's his new way of wanting to rule in the future. He wants to establish a government. And this character is harsh. So this takes place before the Hulk Future Imperfect, and it takes place directly right after this particular story right here. The covers are drawn by Del Keon, who is probably known by now as one of the best artists on the Hulk. And we have Aaron Stack come back, Machine Man. He comes back to fight the Hulk. But there are some surprises in here. This is a book I couldn't put down. I read, much like the very first miniseries, I read this one cover to cover. It's a quick read, and it's a fun read, because it establishes this character that Peter David created throughout his run on The Incredible Hulk. And we get to know more about this futuristic Bruce Banner, and what makes him so different than our Bruce Banner, what made him snap. And it's a really cool build-up to where we see him in Future Imperfect. One of the biggest surprises to me was the return of these guys right here, and this is a cast known as the Pantheon, who Hulk was a part of during Peter David's run. And I hadn't seen them around in such a long time, so it was nice for them to just be sharing the pages with him, even though it's in this dark alternate reality. And let's just say, yeah, they don't have the ending that they want. Now, there's a big surprise in here, who they are allying themselves with, and there's a huge fight with Maestro towards the end. Freaking awesome. I love that. And I can't show any of those spoilers there. But the book is brutal. There's a lot of mature content in here because the whole goal of Pantheon is to take down Maestro, or who they keep calling Bruce because they still remember him as their friend. But they want to take him down for good. They want to shoot him up and cut his body into pieces so he cannot be restored as this creature known as Maestro. But, man, it's so good. And then we also get the backup stories in here. Thought it was an odd placement for them, but it makes sense as they were coming out monthly. I wish they had collected all 3 of these at the very beginning, because these took place years ago. So this is the Black Sky storyline that features the Pantheon. There we go. It's this type of art. Now let's look in the back here for some extras. Now towards the end of the book, we are hinted that the story will continue in Maestro World War M. So, cannot wait for that to come out. I haven't even seen the solicits of that yet. But here's all the variants. Some of them are in thumbnail. Like you have Ed McGuinness there, Gary Frank, Joe Bennett, Scotty Young, of course, Ryan Stegman. Then you have Carlos, which I wish these were in full splash pages, though. These are great. The book retails for $15.99, collects all 5 issues of Maestro War and Packs, and has 120 pages. And here is your spine watching time. Here's what all the spines look like together for this week. At this moment, I just want to remind you to hit that like button, subscribe, share the video. All that helps with our YouTube algorithm and our channel keep growing. Alright, let's keep going. Hellions by Zeb Wells Volume 2. Now, before I go into this one, again, I need to remind people that I am going to be talking about spoilers that happen in X of Swords, or 10 of Swords, if you read it. So just in case, spoilers, if you don't want to know anything about this series, which is probably one of my favorite series to come out of the Dawn of X era, then by all means, please go ahead and skip and go into the Star Wars, the original Marvel years, if you want to see the artwork in there. Or if you want to see the artwork in here, put me on mute. Alright, which I'm sure some people do anyway. But here we have Hellions, Zeb Wells, your reward. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Volume 2, collecting issues 7 through 12 of this amazing kick-ass series that just blew me away with this cast of characters. So for the main part of the characters, you have Mr. Sinister leading this weird, obscure team of people just trying to rectify their sins of the past. They're trying to make amends for what they've done. So you have Quan-On, still feels weird calling her that, but that's my old man brain instead of Betsy. Psylocke, you have Empath, you have Grey Crow, still want to call him Scalp Hunter. You have Orphan Maker, Nanny, Wildchild, and Havoc. Now, what happened during the X of Swords? Well, this isn't that big of a spoiler, but I didn't want to ruin it for anybody. They were just really used as cannon fodder. They all died. But as you know that in the world of Krakoa, in this Dawn of X era, in the Hickman era of X-Men, everybody can come back to life. Right here with using these pods, and these 5 special mutants can bring them back. So even the cover is kind of ridiculous. It's just an over-the-top Sinister mourning over the loss of his team. But it's very ironic that he's the one that's crying over them. So here we are back with the team, and they immediately come back and go into a mission. Now, they are coming back a little bit different. They sense that something is different about them. So he sends them on a mission to go and rescue Nanny's ship from the right, because they need something from there to restore Orphan Maker's body. Like, they can bring Orphan Maker back, but he can't live without this particular armor. I've always loved the design of Orphan Maker, so I'm kind of glad they stuck to that classic design. Then you have the return of a classic X-Men villain, which I love that they keep doing that. We also have Sage. So love that she plays a role in this from time to time. Before we have the X-Men Gala, we have this little thing where they go get tortured by Arcade, who is, I'm pretty sure by now, most people know, just this little maniac that's been hanging around the Marvel Universe and puts people into games that can kill them. But he's not alone, of course. It's with Jason right there. But after this Murder World arc, that all leads into the X-Men Gala. And the X-Men Gala is so fun. This Hellions has been such a freaking joy to read. I love the way that Zeb Wells writes the characters. Yes, I'm sure people complain about the sassy Sinister, and that was honestly something that Kieran Gillen started in his run of X-Men. But once you've had a character that has been around for decades, they're changing him up a little bit, and I love the changes that they've made to him. Hell, we've got the mutant formerly known as Apocalypse hanging out and walking around in a business suit making deals in Krakoa. Why the hell not have a fun version of Sinister? I love it. But what I was going to say is that even though they are a little bit different in the way that they're written, they're a little bit hokier, they're a little bit funnier, more in your face with the humor, they're still the same characters at heart. And I feel that way about Wild Child, his Havoc, all his characters that he's writing. I think he does an excellent job. And yes, this has become one of my favorite Dawn of X era comics because of that reason. Hell, this might be my favorite X-Men comic that has come out of this era. I'm loving this. This Cable is excellent. But anyway, let's get back to this. So the X-Men Gala is really just about crashing a party. So the Hellions come in. You have Empath, Grey Crow, Wild Child, Nanny, and Orphan Maker coming and crashing this X-Men Gala, this event. And it's embarrassing to the actual people that were invited. And I love it. It's great. It's what you do. You go and crash a friend's party that you weren't invited to. That's right. So collecting issues 7 through 12, retailing for $17.99, and the book has 160 pages. All the covers are in the back. Between the chapters and the chapter breaks, the covers are there, but they all have a one-tone color. I think it's like a gold color. But these are the covers, and then you also have some of the variants here, including the X-Men Gala variants. Now, the X-Men Gala is going to be collected in a big, oversized hardcover later on. But honestly, I've read zero of it. This is the first issue I've read that involves the X-Men Gala, and I was not lost at all. So, much like the X of Swords, I'm pretty sure the Hellions part is just a standalone story. Star Wars, the original Marvel years. There's your spine, and here's the back. Volume 5. So, collecting issues 74 to 88 of Star Wars Annual Number 3 and the Return of the Jedi 4-issue miniseries. So what you're going to see in here are mainly stories written by Joe Duffy, drawn by the phenomenal Ron Frenz, and his finisher, Tom Palmer. Actually, Tom Palmer did this cover. He does painted covers. And I think this is the cover that they use for Omnibus Volume 3. So we have one more of these collections to end the Marvel years, the original Marvel years. I think they continued a little bit more in the UK. So what is this about, in case for people that don't know what the original Marvel years are? So pretty much Lucas approached Marvel and decided to do a comic book based on his movies. And since there were years in between the movies, the comic book continued. So after Star Wars A New Hope, or what it was just called Star Wars back then, the stories continued with Archie Goodwin and a few other writers that came into the book, and continued the adventures of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, Princess Leia, C-3PO, and R2-D2. Now, the one thing they couldn't do is, of course, kill off any of the major characters or change them up in any kind of way. Like, they couldn't give Luke Skywalker an eye patch, because he would have to be changed back into his original form that he left him in at the end of A New Hope for the next movie, Empire Strikes Back. So the stories took place in between the movies. And then there's also the comic book adaptation of the movies. And they're collected in the trade paperbacks in the Epic collections. So that's what this is. Most of this taking place after Empire Strikes Back. So that's why they're on the hunt for Han Solo. They're trying to find out where exactly Boba Fett took Han Solo. We have stories of, this one here's by Joe Duffy, but it's drawn by Klaus Janson. We have stories in here of Darth Vader and the Emperor trying to find Luke Skywalker and lure him into the dark side. And then, of course, I do love this. This is awesome. This is, yes. Right here is the introduction of Captain Drebel. But he looks like Captain Harlock, right? It's just really Lando in his costume right here. Looks just like Captain Harlock. Even the eye patch. Love it. He's going undercover because, of course, him and Chewie are trying to figure out where exactly Han Solo's body is after the Empire Strikes Back. So all of this leads into the Return of the Jedi miniseries. So even the characters that were introduced for the comics were going on their own solo missions, so it makes sense that they were not part of the main storyline that you saw in the movie. And the adaptation is pretty much the movies. There's a couple of different things that they changed a little bit, but everything happens the way the movie happens. And they also have the pinups in the back. The adaptations are written by Archie Goodwin and Al Williamson providing most of the artwork, but so does Ron Frenz. And for those that have not seen Return of the Jedi, okay, well, I will skip that, because I'm pretty sure most people have. So, the books that come afterwards, including the cover here from issue 81, all of this takes place immediately after the ending of Return of the Jedi. So they're all going in their own mission. Han Solo owes somebody money, so he takes Princess Leia with him, as well as R2-D2, to go to another planet to go and find money and scavenge. Oh, this is really cool, and this is something we've seen before in the novels, and of course, what most of us wanted to happen, but, you know, Boba Fett kind of got done dirty in the Return of the Jedi. So immediately they bring him back to life here. I thought that was really cool, and for anybody, well, no, never mind, I'm not going to spoil that, but, and that's not much of a spoiler, we've seen the character return, and we've seen a bunch of novels with his character back in it. I think one of my favorite explanations as to why he returned was he was just too nasty, so this creature spat him out. Interesting, okay, I dig that. But here he fights Han Solo and Leia, and then we have Luke go on his own missions, while Lando's doing his own thing too. Most of this written by Jo Duffy. She's the one that writes most of the stuff in here. And Bob McLeod eventually takes over. Tom Palmer's still doing the finishes. And I love Tom Palmer's finish. It reminds me of my era of reading Avengers, and he also did some finishes for John Buscema. And let's look in the back here for some extras. This is a really thick book, almost 500 pages. It is 496 pages. As we're getting to the back, I am reminded of where the story is going, and that's the rebels trying to get rid of the Empire, right? They defeated the Emperor, and they want to get rid of the Empire. However, there's always a new evil, right? That always happens in every story. So they're trying to build a new republic, and they have to wipe out the Empire first. And I thought that was cool with the introduction of some new characters. Now, what was I saying? Yes, the extras. We have a Marvel Age cover here. This one by Ron Frenz and Jack Abel. I almost said John Buscema, but that face looks like Big John Buscema. Beyond Star Wars, this is a interview with Jo Duffy. And we have some original cover art there. Different cover arts for the collections, the trade paperbacks that came out throughout the years. Classic Star Wars. Whoa. Adam Hughes. Whew. Princess Leia slave outfit. Do they still call it that? Oh man, this is cool. This is an introduction from Warwick Davis for the Return of the Jedi hardcover. And they do collect the Return of the Jedi hardcover cover right there. And Star Wars Legends Legacy Volume 4. Last but certainly not least, the New Mutants Epic Collection Sudden Death. I know you saw the spines earlier, but I wanted to show it again, and it is Volume 5, 1987 to 1988, and with this cover, this says everything. This is the fall of the mutants, is what exactly is going to be collected in here. So, we have issues 55 through 70 of New Mutants, as well as New Mutants number 4. We have the Louise Simonson years. So if you're anticipating the New Mutants Omnibus Volume 2, this takes place directly right afterwards. Now, if you've been getting X-Men and oversized hardcover collections and you don't want to double dip, well, the stories that are in here have already been collected in the Fall of the Mutants and X-Men Inferno Prologue. So just in case you don't want to double dip, the stories in here have been collected in that format. However, they have not been collected in trade paperback format. The New Mutants Classics ended before this came out. So this is all new stuff in trade paperback format. Like we have Curse of the Valkyrie and we have the Cable Epic Collection, but this is all new to the Epic Collection. And it's, this is the June Brigman story, I think. I think she did the artwork for this. Yeah, June Brigman. With a Kevin Nolan art. I love this era of New Mutants. I know it's either love and hate. And I didn't think there were many people that didn't like it, but Yeah, apparently when I joined the internet, there were some people that did not like Wheezy's run on X Factor or New Mutants. I happen to love it. You have Brett Blevins on art, and to me, this is the best art that he did because it's all inked by Terry Austin. Terry Austin being one of my top 3 favorite inkers of all time. I love his inks. His inks on John Byrne's art, his inks on Arthur Adams' artwork. It just wouldn't be the same without him. And I think he adds so much attention to detail. So, yes, I think this is one of the reasons why people don't like this particular era, and that is Bird Brain. But without Bird Brain, you wouldn't have the Fall of the Mutants. Well, at least for the New Mutants. Now, if you're wondering if this doesn't collect the X-Men or X-Factor parts of Fall of the Mutants, you don't need to have read those. It's not like Part 1 is in X-Factor, Part 2 is in X-Men, and then Part 3 is in New Mutants. They're all standalone stories dealing with their own drama. You have X-Factor dealing with the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse, and you have the X-Men in Dallas dealing with the adversary. Meanwhile, the New Mutants are here on this island dealing with this idiot right here, the Animator. It has an island full of these animals that are anthropomorphic and coming to life that he's doing experiments on, and of course he has ties to the right. And, hey, I just talked about the right and the Hellions. I love that they keep bringing back these villains, and that's who Bird Brain is. So, of course, the New Mutants step in to try to help out their new friend and all Bird Brain's friends. And, of course, big drama happens. During this time, it's also when Sunspot and Warlock were hanging out with the Fallen Angels, and they come back and nobody's home, and then they decide to set out against Magneto's wishes. So it's also very important to note that this is during the time when Professor Xavier decided to go up to space with his girlfriend, the one with the feathers, that's right, Lilandra, and he put Magneto in charge of the X-Men and, of course, his New Mutants. So the main thing, God, look at that, look at those details, love it, Terry Austin, killing it. So the main thing that happens in this particular crossover is, of course, the death of one of the characters. And I'm not going to spoil who that is, but I think it is handled so damn well. So there's 2 things. Issue, of course, 61, when they realized, towards the end of this issue, when they realized one of their own team member is dead. It's rough on the kids. And then issue 64, when Warlock has a hard time accepting death, because he's an alien. He doesn't know why his friends are mourning. And there's this creepy but yet amazing story in issue 64 where he tries to reanimate the dead body of his friend. And he seems to think that this is okay. The rest of his friends are going to be happy. I can't show any of that artwork or spoil who dies, but damn, it's good. You also have some members switching teams. They're going to the Hellions. And one of the best things that all of this sets up is the coming of Darkchild. So you've had Illyana, right? You've had her for a while be with the New Mutants. And for the most part, she's been able to suppress this demon child in her, this dark child, this part of her that existed through limbo. But the dark things that are happening to them, such as some of the team members leaving, the loss of one of their teammates, and the, how do I explain what happened? Something happens to the X-Men in Dallas that makes her snap. So all of that is leading directly into her just owning these powers of Darkchild. So by the time Inferno comes around, it sets up perfectly why she is the way she is through Inferno. And one of the things she tries to do is go after the man she blames for some of these things that happen to the X-Men, and that is Forge. But of course, the Freedom Force is protecting Forge. Oh man, just this era is so wonderful. I'd love to break down each issue, but it's not a review of that. Oh, and we'll also introduce to the character of Gossamer, who's going to split the team up even more because of her beauty and her power. But that doesn't happen until a little bit later. As far as extras in this particular Epic collection, by the way, this one retails for $39.99. You have some stuff in here from the Marvel Age. You have some house ads for Fall of the Mutants. I've always loved that cover. You have all the connecting covers here from 59, 60, and 61. This is from Mark Silvestri and Chris Claremont. This is from the Marvel Age Annual number 3. Yeah, right here. It's the aftermath of Fall of the Mutants and how the characters are dealing with what happened. The Evolutionary War, which is New Mutants Annual number 4 is in there. And, oh, that is beautiful. Is that Colleen? Yeah, Colleen Doran. Bill Sienkiewicz, Brett Blevins right there. The book has 471 pages and retails for $39.99. Here's some more extras from Marvel Fanfare. Always love that cover. And this is this is the cover without any of the lettering. Cool, any of the font. Cover art right there from Brett Blevins, and then some Fall of the Mutants trade paperbacks. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for your mentees. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and the page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up. If, like me, you'd love to see the Maestro series all collected in a companion omnibus from Peter David, I would love to see that whole companion omnibus. And if you've read The Curse of the Man-Thing, what you think about that, what you think about Man-Thing without Steve Gerber. And, of course, which Epic collections you're going to be picking up. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any more questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and on Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. More importantly, all of you, stay healthy, stay safe, and much love.